Okay, I'm here with Michael Reno Harrell, correct?
That's it.
All right. We're doing a podcast to introduce the Azalea Storytelling Festival, and he's about to do a performance here at the Pure Life Studio, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. So, tell me a bit about yourself.
A bit about myself. Well, I'm from Western North Carolina. It's where I make my home. My wife and I live there, and travel all over America, singing songs that I write and telling stories that I come up with. So it's a pretty good life. We get to travel all over America, meet some of the most wonderful people in the world. We see everything we ever wanted to see, and we're never tourists because people take us into their homes and show us all the cool stuff. It's great.
That's fantastic.
It is.
What's some of the best things you saw?
Some of the best things I've seen, oh goodness. Well, I've seen the redwoods in California, and I've seen the skyscrapers in New York City, and I've been on the beaches in Florida, and I've eaten barbecue in Texas. We could go on and on and on. And I've seen the azaleas here.
All right. So, assuming that LaGrange is out of the question, what's the favorite place you've been to so far?
Oh goodness, I don't know. That's so hard to answer. It depends on the day, I guess, what answer you would get. America. I find America's beautiful everywhere except where people have screwed it up.
Okay.
I love the mountains. I love the ocean. Again, one of the main reasons that I elected to do this as a young man was I wanted to see America. I read Jack Kerouac, and that was it. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be on the road, and I've been on the road since 1963.
Wow.
When I was a sophomore in high school, this is back during the folk scare of the early 60s, that's when I had decided I was going to be a jazz drummer. And growing up in the Appalachian Mountains, there weren't a whole lot of jazz going on. But I heard the Kingston Trio years and years and years ago, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And so I traded my snare drum for a guitar. And folk music, as I said, was big at that time. And where I was living in East Tennessee, where I grew up, there was a folk trio called the Green Mountain Trio, and they were 3 years older than I. And one of the guys, when they graduated high school, when I became a sophomore, they had graduated. One of the guys went to college, and the other two were going to pursue the music business and stay in that. And so they had an audition to fill the third slot, and me, as a high school sophomore, just barely, auditioned thinking there's no chance I could get this. But I did, because I had learned to finger pick the guitar. And they hired me, and so from the time I was a sophomore, I was on the road on weekends and all summer, traveling around, playing music and seeing America, and it was great.
Wow.
And I've been doing that pretty much ever since.
So, how long have you been doing it?
Well, since 1963, that's over 10 years, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, 50 some years. Yeah, 57 years. Wow. It's a lot, isn't it?
A little bit.
I should be better at it than I am.
So, what led you to want to become a storyteller?
Well, a lot, Bob Dylan sort of kicked that door open. When I first, when folk music sort of first, the Kingston Trio put up Tom Dooley in 1958, and by by 61, I was in junior high, and I was getting interested in that. And when I found out that girls like guitars, I started working on that. And then Bob Dylan came along, and before that, it sort of had to be a real folk song. Had to be, had it gone through the folk process. Maybe you didn't even know who wrote it. It was so old.
Mm-hmm.
But when Bob Dylan came along, he proved that you could write your own songs in the folk music world, and then everybody started writing songs. And so I thought, that's what I need to do. So I started trying to write songs, and I carried a little notebook around with me forever till it wore out and the song didn't appear in it somehow. And finally I got a song that was okay, and the more I did it, the better I got at it. And so then after I got out of high school and the folk music world sort of that sort of died when the Beatles came. And so I started playing in seafood restaurants and bars and all those places, where they had music. And I would try to sing my songs, and people would go, "Hey, play something we like. Play something we know," what was on the jukebox there beside me.
I gotcha.
So I thought, well, maybe if I tell people a story about my song, they'd be more interested in hearing the song. And so that went on for a long time, and I sort of started talking more and more and telling more stories about the songs. People seemed interested in that. It's sort of in our DNA to listen to stories anyway, So I got to a point to where my introductions were longer than my songs, and a friend of mine who was a storyteller said, "You ought to be a storyteller." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about it." And he said, "Well, your introductions are longer than your songs. I'd say you're a storyteller." So that's how I became a storyteller. So now what I do is I write a song about something I know about, or something I'm interested in, or something I've experienced. I write the song first because I've been a songwriter longer than a storyteller. So then I go back and construct the story to sort of fit the song. So, I take things, stories about people I've known in my life, places I've been, events that I've been witnessed or heard about, and I write the song first, and that sort of condenses all the information down, and then I can take that and expand it and make the story. So all my stories end with a song.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting process and very cool.
Well, I don't know, it's maybe kind of unique. Most people work the other way. They would write a story and then write a song about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. There aren't that many of us who play music in the storytelling world, although they're becoming more and more. 3 of us here at the festival this weekend use music in our storytelling. So, yeah, it's getting to be more of an accepted way of doing it.
Well, that's fantastic. So what advice would you give somebody wanting to pursue a career similar to yours?
Well, the first piece of advice I would give them is, hone your craft, of course. And you can do that by, the way that you hone your craft as a performer is to get on stages anywhere you can. You can sit in your room and practice storytelling or singing or songwriting, all those things. But it's not real until you present it. So you need to learn to present it. You need to learn to connect with an audience, whether you're a storyteller or a singer-songwriter. You have to connect with the audience. That's the thing. You have to include them in what you're doing. And the way you learn to do that is there's no substitute for stage time. So get all the stage time you can, open mics, civic clubs, whatever. Just anywhere you can get in front of people. Church groups, and hone your craft there,
Okay.
And then the second part is learn to become a professional. Learn to be on time, learn to be presentable when you get there. Don't be a pain in the butt, Be easy to work with. Learn the business end of it, because it's called, whether it's storytelling, professional music, whatever it is, it's called the entertainment business. And it should be called the business of entertainment, because without the business, there's no show.
Mm-hmm.
So learn the business. Learn how to contact people, how to book your own shows. You're not going to get an agent until you can sell out 250 seats a night. And when you can sell out 250 seats a night, you don't need an agent anyway. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be your own agent, What I recommend to people who are ready to start doing that and ready to start booking gigs is draw a circle around where you live, the radius of which is equal to the amount of time you're willing to drive home after a gig. And then find every venue in that circle and work them. Find out how to get there. If you have to do open mics, and of course the internet is, when we started out 100 years ago, there was no internet. Now you can find out anything you need to know about places that you can perform on the internet. Mm-hmm. And of course, unfortunately, so can everybody else who's trying to do it. And the last word I would say, the number one word, is tenacity. Mm. You're going to it's just like trying to be an author or an actor. You're going to get turned down more than you're going to get accepted. But the more you get accepted, the more you will get accepted. And you'll find places that will have you back again. You'll find venues that you fit in, that they'll start calling you, when can you come back? And those are the places. Then you're building a following. Very important to take a sign-up sheet to your gigs, so that if somebody comes up after, be there and available to people after the gig. Stand around, shake hands, talk, make fans one at a time. That's how you do it. And have a sign-up sheet that they can write their name and email address down on. And then you can keep in contact. Every month, send out a little mailer that says where you're going to be, maybe a little story about what you've been doing. Get a YouTube channel going. Social media is critical in any endeavor like that now.
Outstanding. Great advice.
And just like what you're doing, be on podcasts, do podcasts, social media, that's the trick.
Yeah, it really is the wave of the future, the wave of the present.
Yeah, it is a wave of the present, you're right. Even old guys like me, it's crucial. I do probably 20% of my time is spent on social media.
Wow.
Yeah. The rest of it's spent in airports and fans.
On the road.
Yeah.
We kind of covered this with Dylan, but who would you say are your biggest musical influences?
A lot of those are people in the early 60s in the folk movement back then. Bob Dylan and all his contemporaries, Buffy St. Marie and Tom Paxton and Phil Oakes and, Peter, Paul and Mary and all those people those are the people, my early influences. Later on, I became a songwriter in Nashville trying to write country music songs.
Okay.
Where I met people like Guy Clark and a lot of the people in what's now known as Americana music. That music that sort of isn't anything else, so it must be that.
Yeah.
So, and of course, just the American bag of songs, not just the Great American Catalog, as they call it, but, any good songwriter, I'm a fan of, Storytelling's the same way,
Well, that was my next question. What were your storytelling influences?
Well, I think anybody that does that is referred to as what we call a national teller, people that travel nationally and do this. The chairman of the board is Donald Davis, who's been here many times. He helped start this festival, actually. Donald's, he's just incredibly brilliant and an amazing storyteller. And he's an inspiration to all of us. He always says he works 42 festivals a year. I didn't know there were 42 festivals, but he's always out there, and you can learn so much from him. And the great Catherine Tucker Windham from Selma, Alabama, was sort of the matriarch of professional storytelling for years. She was in it very early on, and she was the reason that when I saw her on television, that's when I said, that's what I want to do. When I saw her at the National Storytelling Festival in Jonesboro, Tennessee. This all started what they call the Renaissance of American storytelling, this sort of thing that started us all on this journey. The first one was the first storytelling festival ever was in 1973 in Jonesboro, Tennessee, and it's still the grandfather of them all. It's the biggest festival. It's the first weekend in October every year, and gosh, we're coming up on 50 years of that.
Oh, wow.
1973, so coming, before long it'll be 50 years since people started this. It started out as folk tales. Everyone was telling folk tales initially. And then sometime in the 1990s, people started telling what we call personal stories. Stories sort of that people can relate to. Stories about bicycle wrecks and piano lessons and all the things that, everyday life. Stories from people's own experience. And that sort of took over. That's the biggest genre. There's still folk tales being told. But what you'll hear this weekend and at most festivals is personal stories. people tend to relate more to a bicycle wreck than they do to killing a dragon, I suppose.
So, how did you connect with the Azalea Story Festival? What's the story behind coming here?
You know, I couldn't say for sure, Earl. My wife has been my manager for 25 years and does all my booking. And I'm sure they must have seen the people here, Joyce or somebody must have seen me somewhere at another festival and maybe at the National Festival.
Okay.
And thought maybe I would be a good fit for them here. Or maybe other storytellers recommended me. I really don't know. I've never asked and never heard.
Okay.
But I'm tickled to death that they did. I think this may be my fourth time here.
I was going to say, is this your first year? But yeah, it's your fourth year. Okay.
This is my fourth time, I think. And I have to say, this is one of the best storytelling festivals in America. It really, really is. I'm not just saying that because I'm here. But the people who run it, Joyce and her staff, it's such a well-oiled machine. And of course, Donald Davis gave them such great advice to begin with. They do their homework. They go to other festivals and scout other tellers. They don't typically hire anyone that they haven't already heard, that they think would be a good fit for them here. They hire tellers that have been successful here before, and every year they have one new teller. By that I mean someone who hasn't been here before. So the audience can count on seeing people that they like and being introduced to someone that most likely will like as well. Because again, the staff here is so attuned to what's going on, and they know their audience so well after these many years that they tend to bring back people that the audience is like. So the audiences here are wonderful, and they know what storytelling is, because again, the festival has been going on for so many years that they know what to expect. So it just runs so smoothly, and the venues are great. And of course, this year they always bring in a couple of us early, and this year it's me and my friend Bill Lepp from West Virginia, and we'll be doing, we're doing libraries, we're doing civic clubs, and of course schools. We do a lot of elementary schools all over the county while we're here the first part of the week through Friday, and then Saturday, Friday night and Saturday are of course the festival days. So it's not just at the auditorium at the college where all this takes place. What a lot of people who come on Friday night and all day on Saturday to the performances maybe aren't aware of is we're here all week out in the community and doing the work of telling stories and letting kids know that they have stories too, and it's just a wonderful town to visit as well. It's a pretty part of the world down here, and being an old Southern boy, I don't mind coming here at all.
Since you don't mind coming here, what's your favorite story about visiting LaGrange?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Eating at the lemon tree. Is that the name of it? There's a
lemon peel, I believe.
Lemon something here. Oh, I can't think of the name of the restaurant. I should be able to plug it. The food here is wonderful. Got good barbecue, and good home cooking here, And for a Southern boy, it's a great place to come. But I guess my favorite thing, a memory about coming here is the audiences here are so welcoming and so open and ready to hear stories,
Yeah, the people here are outstanding.
Yeah, it's a great town. And it's a pretty town. What a pretty square. Mm-hmm. Instead of a courthouse like in my little town, we have the old courthouse on the square. But you got that beautiful fountain, and it's just a gorgeous town. And the downtown seems real vital. You've got all the Walmarts and all the things that everybody has to have out on, here and there, and all that stuff out by the interstate. But the downtown it really has a presence of its own. It has a sense of place, and there's so much history here. So much great old architecture. I mean, it's just a pretty Georgia town, It's what people think of when they think of the South, I think,
Okay, now these questions are just for fun.
Okay, I like fun.
All right. Number one, what are you most excited about right now?
What am I most excited about right now? I was in California last year. There's a great vintage guitar store in Tarzana, California called Norman's Rare Guitars. I'm a guitar geek. I've had hundreds of them over the years, vintage guitars, buy and sell and trade them.
Okay.
And so I went to that store, and they've got a big internet presence, and the guy who owns it, Norman Harris, and a fellow by the name of Joe Bonamassa have started this thing called the All Guitar Network, and I was on the All Guitar Network as a guest, and they asked me would I start my own show, so that's what I'm doing. I'm in the middle of right now, traveling around the country. I carry all my video stuff with me, and I do interviews, sort of like you're doing, with guitar traders and guitar players and famous people and not so famous people and storytellers all over America. So getting that show up and running has been a lot of fun. That's what I'm excited about right now. It's called Mostly Acoustic, and it's on allguitarnetwork.com. You can find it there. And then I've got a program on YouTube, on my YouTube channel called Mostly Acoustic as well. So I'm excited about that right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, number two.
Yep.
If you could be a superhero, what power would you have?
What power would I have? Oh, goodness. Longevity.
Okay. Number three, Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Oh. Early on, probably Beatles. Lately, more Stones.
Okay, fair enough. Favorite food, number four?
Barbecue.
Okay.
Any kind, Texas, North Carolina,
I was gonna
Georgia, brisket, pork, pulled pork, you name it.
East or West North Carolina?
Oh, East.
Okay.
Although I'm from Western North Carolina, I'm a vinegar guy. Yeah, vinegar based.
Yeah, vinegar's good stuff. All right, favorite beverage?
Favorite beverage, water.
Really?
Yeah. I drink a lot of water. I'm a big fan of good water. You know, I know that's probably a pretty bland answer, but that's it. Second, coffee.
Okay. You a coffee connoisseur, or can you
I
drink
don't know if
anything?
I'm a connoisseur, but I've got some. I carry my rig with me. We'll put it that way.
Fair enough. All right. Last question. Do you have a MacGyver moment? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do. Well, if you're a musician, a traveling musician, you're going to have some. You know, probably making a guitar capo out of a pencil and a rubber band when I forgot to bring one. I guess that's. Yeah, or. Well, I do have a MacGyver moment that was a big flop. I was playing in a club back when I had a band, and my amp went out, and I pulled the fuse out, and the fuse had blown, so I put a chewing gum wrapper around it and stuck it right back in, and burned up the entire amplifier. So that was my MacGyver moment.
I can see how the
We're all on
logic would
stage
work.
what is all that smoke? Anyway, yeah, that's my MacGyver moment.
Awesome. Is there anything I should have asked you in this interview but didn't?
No, I can't think of anything. It's a fine questions and a fun time. Thanks for asking me.
All right. So how can my listeners connect with you aside from attending the Azalea Storytelling
It's the
Festival?
easiest. Just start at michaelreno.com. MICHAELRENO, just like in Nevada. michaelreno.com, and of course I'm on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff too.
Okay.
YouTube, a lot of YouTube. So. Yeah.
Okay. This is Earl Barnett. This is Michael Reno. Thank you for listening, and yeah.
Hey, LaGrange.
Hey, LaGrange.